What's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's time to talk about the most anticipated metal albums of November. And once more, I'm gonna go week by week, starting first with what you all said you were most hyped about, and then share some picks of my own. Alright, November 5th, the big release is Bullet for My Valentine with Bullet for My Valentine. Yes, the new album from this longtime metalcore crew was actually moved from last month, but you can expect to see my thoughts on this one on a review real soon.
Watch me shatter.
Then I was glad to see a few of you really are excited about SeeYouSpaceCowboy and the Romance of Affliction via Pure Noise Records. This is one of the most exciting new mathcore and metalcore bands in the game right now, if you ask me. And with a sophomore album that includes appearances from Every Time I Die's Keith Buckley, Under Oath's Aaron Gillespie, and Knocked Loose Isaac Hale, I'm pretty stoked to hear it. But what I'm most stoked about this week is Mol with Diorama. If you ask me, this Danish band does Death Heaven better than Death Heaven. And if you had found yourself wishing that the new album had been at least a little bit more on the heavy side, I strongly suggest you check out both this album and the previous one, Jord. We also have Autokrator with Persecution via Krucyator Productions. I've been a fan of this death metal project since they dropped their absolutely devastating self-titled album. Expect more intense aggression alongside concepts centering around the Roman Empire. And then there's also Sarke with Allsighr via Soulseller Records. This Norwegian band is fronted by Darkthrone's Nocturno Culto, but follows the more recent approach of Ison's solo work. A very interesting and unique release for those looking for something a little bit different.
The veil of light hides the darkest secrets. A mental door.
The week of November 12th, All That Remains are dropping the anniversary edition of The Fall of Ideals via Craft Recordings. This is still easily one of my favorite metalcore albums of the 2000s, and I still enjoy it just as much as I did then. If somehow you've never heard it, now is as good a time as any. And then on a similar metalcore note, there's Silent Planet with Iridescent via Solid State Records. I knew very little about Silent Planet other than mildly recognizing the name in your responses when I asked you what you were most excited about this month. But after checking out the single Panopticon, I think that I and whoever posted that are definitely on the same wavelength.
Shut down the system. Burn away the veil.
But what I'm most stoked about this week is Selvans with Dark Italian Art via Avant-garde Music. Selvans is a one-man Italian black metal project that fuses dark atmosphere and synths with traditional instruments like flute, tibia, and sistrum. My head was definitely turned by 2015's Lupercalia, and I'm interested to hear how this latest outing pans out. And on a similar note, we also have Ars Magna Umbrae with Thrown Between Worlds via Voidhanger. Ars Magna Umbrae is a Polish black metal project that has been dropping album after album of hauntingly pitch black atmosphere since 2017. If you enjoy the likes of Nightbringer, Outre, and Deathspell Omega, definitely give them a listen. The week of November 19th, we have Converge with Bloodmoon via Epitaph Records. As if a new album from one of my all-time favorite metalcore bands and forerunner in the genre isn't already cause to celebrate, Bloodmoon steps up the anticipation by also being a full collab with Chelsea Wolfe, Ben Chisholm, and Cave-In and Mutoid Man Stephen Brodsky. What more could you want? And then y'all are also excited, rightly so, for Exodus and Persona Non Grata. This seems to be a big week for returning genre forerunners, this time in the thrash domain. I've been on and off with Exodus over the years, but they've always been one that I would choose over many of the big four when it comes to new releases. Big week, so many choices. There's also Chemist with Deceiver, a new album from Plebeian Grandstand, a new Portrayal of Guilt. But what I'm most excited about this week is Obscura and A Valediction via Nuclear Blast Records. This technical and progressive death metal band continues to impress with their 6th album, and fusing a lot of classic Gothenburg riffs along the way. Already one of my favorites this month. And then I'm also excited for The Lurking Fear with Death, Madness, Horror, Decay via Century Media Records. For those who didn't know, Thomas Lindberg of At the Gates also fronts this excellent Swedish death metal project, and given that I thought their debut was actually far more entertaining than either of the first 2 reunion At the Gates albums, I strongly recommend checking them out now if you haven't already. November 26th, we have a new album from Lockup with The Dregs of Hades via Listenable Records. Now, as if 2 albums this year from Lindberg wasn't enough already, we're getting a 3rd also in November with him once more fronting this classic UK grindcore crew, which also features Shane of Napalm Death. Prepare to be destroyed. And then there's also Hypocrisy with Worship via Nuclear Blast Records. This death metal release was highly requested when I asked what y'all were most interested in hearing in November, and for me it's another case of a band that for no particular reason I've just never given the time of day. Guess there's no time like the present.
You hate me, I hate you. The feeding of our hatred, the feeding of our hatred.
Cynic is also dropping Ascension codes, but what I'm most excited for this week is, first of all, Proscriptor McGovern's Apsu with their self-titled album via Agania Records. So I know that this is one of those controversial releases this year, and you are absolutely entitled to feel however you want about it. My personal stance as always is that if I don't know the members personally and I wasn't there for what went down, I don't consider it really any of my business to speak on it. But as a longtime Apsu fan, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't hyped to finally hear new material after 10 years of waiting. I'll be honest though, I'm not sure they're going to be able to pull it off without the insane shredding of Melissa Moore. And then I'm also stoked to recommend to you Noise Trail Immersion with Curia via Voidhanger. This is another project I've been following for several years now, getting me instantly hooked with its unique fusion of black metal, mathcore, and post-metal. Although this one seems to be gearing up to be their most atmospheric and experimental to date. And those are just some of the amazing metal albums you should check out in November. Let me know down in the comments which albums you're most excited about, and be sure to check out my favorite albums of October if you haven't already. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.